Welcome to this virtual debate for Lynnwood Mayor, presented by the Lynnwood Chamber of Commerce and Lynnwood Today. My name is Linda Jones, CEO of the Lynnwood Chamber, and I'll be moderating this debate. Lynnwood Today publisher Teresa Whipple will serve as our timekeeper. Thanks to our sponsors, Edmonds College, James Russell, PLLC, Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, and Office Tech. I also want to thank each of the candidates for participating in this event. Welcome to Christine Frazelle and Jim Smith.
Hi.
Before we get started, here are the ground rules. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Then I'll ask a series of questions, and both candidates will be given 2 minutes to respond to each question. After each question, the candidates will be allowed 1 minute to rebut their opponent or to add to their initial response. After both candidates have answered the question, they'll indicate their desire to do so by holding up their hands. And that would be your real hand, not the virtual hand, because they're very tiny and hard to see. Only one additional comment per candidate will be allowed for each question. After the questions, each candidate will make a 1 minute closing statement. Now, Teresa Whipple, who is serving as our timekeeper, will demonstrate how she will notify you how much time you have left, holding up warnings for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop when your time is complete. Since we aren't in person to toss a coin, the candidates will respond in alphabetical order, then we'll alternate who goes first in answering each question and in giving their closing remarks. Let's move on to the opening statements. And Ms. Frazelle, you get to go first.
My name's Christine Frazelle, and I'm campaigning to be the next mayor of Lynnwood. I grew up in Lynnwood and I went to schools here, as did both of my daughters. I'm a proud graduate of Meadowdale High School, and I earned my accounting degree from Central Washington University. I've worked for a wide variety of businesses before beginning my own accounting firm in 1987. About 6 years ago, I started to attend city council meetings and city finance meetings before being on council. Since I've been on council, I've chaired that same finance committee for 3 years, and I have the perspective of 3 finance directors who have worked for our city. Since 1995, I have volunteered with many organizations to connect people who are low income or homeless. That journey has taken me under bridges, into jail cells, and onto boards and leadership positions with those organizations. I'm a strong supporter of safety in our community. I served 2 years as a fire commissioner for South County Fire and have received their endorsement along with that of the Teamsters Joint Council 28, the National Women's Political Caucus of Washington, the Housing Action Alliance of Snohomish County, as well as a joint endorsement with my opponent from the Lynnwood Police Officers Guild. People often ask me, why do you want to be in politics at this point in your life? And I will tell you, I'm not here for the politics. I come as a concerned citizen who has lived, worked, and watched our city grow. I see the potential and the vision of what our city can be with the best leadership. I look forward to leading and moving our city forward in areas of diversity, equity, housing, safety, financial accountability, and transparency. With my leadership experience and collaborative mentality, my passion is to guide Lynnwood into being the place we are all proud to live, work, and play.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, your opening statement.
Thank you. Nothing is more important than bringing our community together. And I'm committed to doing that as your next mayor. By far, I have the most experience, having been a member of the Lynnwood City Council for over 25 years, as well as being in a leadership role with many local organizations for decades. And that started long before I ever considered public office. I've owned a local Lynnwood company for 30 years, employing dozens of local residents, adding to our critical Lynnwood economy. Making things happen is what I do. I was the founder and president of the Lynnwood Chamber. Thank you very much, Linda, for carrying that on. For years, Lynnwood was without a chamber. I then took the initiative to start one. And now it is the wonderful organization that today is co-hosting this event, as well as doing much good in our community. And it all just started by my decision to make it happen. For 4 years, I chaired Lynnwood's festival when we had festivals. I'm committed to bring a multitude of community events back to Lynnwood, creating a true sense of community and belonging for all. But my background goes deeper than that. On the city council, I have a record of lower taxes and best supporting the local small businesses of Lynnwood that are critical in providing for our residents. I'm the candidate that has a track record of supporting public safety and not voting to partially defund our police. Public safety of all of our people must be our top priority. If our families are not safe in our homes while shopping or in our lovely parks, nothing else matters. Now is a critical time. Now is a time for a mayor that is focused and dedicated on the people of Lynnwood. I'm Jim Smith, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. And now to our first question. Mr. Smith, we'll start with you. As Lynnwood prepares for a population boom with the arrival of Sound Transit's Lynnwood Link Light Rail, what do you say to longtime Lynnwood residents who fear they will be priced out of the city?
Well, there's a few things that we need to be doing with that. First of all, I think that it's been poor planning, or the eyes have not been open as far as the problems we're going to have with this light rail coming to town. There are some deep advantages to light rail, and there's some important problems that we have to address, and that has not been addressed. Number one, we were going to be having a ton of new traffic. 30 years ago, former council member and then Mayor Tina Roberts Martinez and I were on a committee to discuss all this. And we were concerned then, and we recommended having the light rail station where it's now going to be built. We thought it should be up towards 164th. However, decades later, they went ahead and did it anyway. Yet nothing is being done as far as addressing the traffic. And I'm not just talking adding a couple bus lanes. I'm talking about the plethora of traffic that would be coming into Lynnwood. We are becoming a magnet. We will be a magnet for all this traffic. So if you think that Lynnwood traffic is bad now, just wait till light rail gets here. And another problem we're going to be having, and this is just documented in all these various stations, crime is going to be going up. We're going to be having additional homelessness camping out or attempting to camp out at the station. I am pledged to help prevent that. We need to have these people working we need to be working on getting these people into locations where they can be thriving and doing well on their own, and not having them being laying by the side of the Sound Transit. And we need to increase our police to be able to handle the problems that are coming for that.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, and please, if you're the second one answering the question, if you'd like me to reread it, just let me know. I'd be happy to. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please.
As Lynnwood prepares for a population boom with the arrival of Sound Transit's Lynnwood Link Light Rail, what do you say to longtime Lynnwood residents who fear they will be priced out of the city?
I think that pricing is a factor of market, and it's a factor of supply and demand. I'm glad that we have been in this process for such a long time. There's been more than 20 years of planning through not only our department, but collaboration with light rail, with Mukilteo, with Shoreline and Malik Terrace. We didn't do this in a vacuum, and we will be continuing to collaborate for answers to these issues. And there's real issues about our rent prices and about our housing. I was told this last week that housing prices went up, according to Snohomish County Assessor's Office, by 20% in this last year alone. We need to be concerned about that. And with that, I think we need to be working with our housing action plan that we've worked on for the last 2 years, and making sure that we're making wise housing decisions. People love our city. People want to be here. We're close to so many different things. Yes, we do have traffic considerations, but we have since the mall went in, I think. There's certain areas of the city that I go around because there's people that need that transit to get to their jobs. People have told us for decades that they need a faster, more efficient way to get to work. And I'm proud that we have become part of that solution. And I know that we will answer whatever needs come up from that issue. COVID has changed some things. Might look a little different by the time 2024 arrives and we get that first train on the road, but it's going to give us more opportunities, more selections on how we go places and how we get to work.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, you have 1 minute if you'd like to add something.
I will, and it's interesting the terminology that we continue to collaborate. I understand that and I appreciate it. However, we needed to be having these discussions. We needed to be having these solutions months and years ago. Again, we go back 30 to 35 years when this first started, and we had all kinds of possibilities what we're going to be doing. The problem that you were talking about as far as people being priced out of the city, one of the biggest problems we have with pricing people out of the city is all the taxes. The taxes have been incredible in Lynnwood. In Lynnwood, we have the highest sales tax in the state. And I believe someone was telling me the other day, the highest sales tax west of the Mississippi River. As far as the property taxes are concerned, there's a lot of property taxes. And with Lynnwood, we have to combine what you see on your statement of Lynnwood taxes as well as the taxes from the fire district. Lynnwood has some of the highest taxes combined there. Thank you for the stuff.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, you have 1 minute if you'd like to add something.
Nothing specific to the question, but I did want to talk about taxes. Of course, what we get from as a city is people's tax money, and we must be good stewards of that. If you look on your property tax statement, a very small, I won't say very small percent, but only a percentage of the tax that is paid on property taxes comes to the city. Average property tax of $4,000, $225 comes to our city. That's what we can control. When we talk about sales tax, yes, it is one of the highest, if not the highest in the state. It's 10.5%. But what we have to remember is the city only gets 1.1% of that. So out of every dollar, the city gets 11 cents. So it's not that we have a huge tax problem here. We have many cities that have much larger tax implications on their residents. And I think.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with you, Ms. Frazelle. Do you align your views with a political party? And if so, what do you say to those who believe it hurts your ability to represent all residents in your decision-making?
So the mayor's position, the mayor's office is nonpartisan. And I've aligned myself as an independent for a lot of years. As things have come out in the last couple of years with Republican versus Democrat, I do lean more Democratic, but not based upon their ideals, but based upon how I live my life and how I vote. I vote for people who more align with social issues, who more align with softer issues of our economy. And I think it needs to remain that. I don't think that we should be a Republican versus Democrat in our city government. It's the one safe place that we have that it is not, should not, and just can't be divided on those bounds. We have community members who don't identify as either one. And that's wonderful, because we need to be talking about issues not based upon a national platform, but based upon what's good for our city, what's good for Lynnwood, what works with us, not what may or may not work across the nation or across the state or even in county government. I have endorsements from people on both sides of those issues, or both sides of Democrat and Republican. And I work a lot with people who don't identify with either one. So I think that's the right place to be, is listening to everyone, not pushing forward any national platform at all.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, your response. And again, let me know if you ever want me to reread the question.
Well, why don't you go ahead and reread it so that I
Okay.
can be more
Sure.
focused. My mind starts wandering when we start having all these stuff coming up. So.
All right. Do you align your views with a political party? And if so, what do you say to those who believe it hurts your ability to represent all residents in your decision-making?
Well, I must say that I have been fighting very, very hard to keep the, and I think I'm the one that's doing this, to keep the partisan politics out of our local elections. We are not here in Lynnwood, in our positions as council members and as the mayor, we're not the Democratic Party. We are not the Republican Party. We're the Lynnwood Party. We're the party of the people of Lynnwood. And that has truly been lost in many cities. And I do see it in Lynnwood with some of the various influencers trying to take over what is going on. It is important for us to have our values to be that of the people of Lynnwood, to have our focus be that of the people of Lynnwood. Chris had talked about various endorsements, and please go to my endorsement page and you'll see that there is endorsements from Democratic county council member. I've got various Republican former council members here and there. I truly do have, and I am pushing a nonpartisan agenda. I think that when we start talking taxes, the taxes, which I'd love to get in deeper with, taxes it hurts everybody. And by having these taxes as high as they are, we can do something about it. And when you talk about property tax, you have to combine, regardless of what was just said, you have to combine the fire, the district tax, and the Lynnwood tax to really know what you're paying, because it was certain members that promoted this to get on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you, Teresa.
Frazelle, do you have anything to add?
I do not. I think I said what needed to be said. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, do you have anything to add?
No, I could talk forever, for a while with politics.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next question is going first to Mr. Smith. In running for mayor, you are applying to be the CEO of the city. Explain to the hiring authority, Lynnwood voters, why your qualifications make you the best candidate to lead the city.
Well, as I mentioned in the opening comments, I've been on the Lynnwood City Council a total of over 25 years. There's something to be said about that time and grade. There's something to be said about actually being in the weeds for as many years as I have, seeing the problems, making mistakes, and making corrections. You can't just do this in learn all this in a few years. That's a big part of it. Number two is that I know that we both have college educations, and I think that my degrees, one, they're both from Central. We're all from Central Washington University, but my degrees are in business administration is one of my degrees. The other one is in law and justice, pre-law. I have a lot of experience in business itself, actually working with people, signing the front of a paycheck in addition to the back of paychecks. I've had many people that have worked for me, and we've added to the economy here in Lynnwood. Now, in addition to that, I've rolled up my sleeves since I was 23 years old, when I first moved to Lynnwood, being part of the JCs, being part of the various organizations. I've actually got there, have done stuff. I've made things happen. I've built parts of this city, such as the Lynnwood Chamber of Commerce. I was the founder of the chamber. I also started the tree lighting ceremony. I also did the 4th of July celebration was just nothing but fireworks, and we made it into festivities. Many of that stuff is gone now. And I have the ability, I've got the experience, and I'll bring back all this because this is important to our community. This is important for the people of Lynnwood. And my focus is on the people of Lynnwood, not the outside organizations that are coming in to tell us what we need to do as a region.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
In running for mayor, you are applying to be the CEO of the city. Explain to the hiring authority, Lynnwood voters, why your qualifications make you the best candidate to lead the city.
So I began my accounting career back in the 1980s, let's say. And since then, I've worked with CEOs, stood alongside presidents and owners of companies, manufacturing, retail, wholesale, service industries, construction. I've seen business from many, many different standpoints. I've worked through budgets. I've worked through grant proposals. I've worked through everything it takes to make a city run, as well as spending long nights working through IRS tax forms for more than 100 tax clients every year. I know what it is to manage business from a wide variety of sources, and I bring that experience. Managing business is not just about numbers on a page. I do that really well, but it's more connecting with the owners, the customers, the vendors, the employees. The employees are the number one asset for any company, for any organization, is who's going to do the actual work of rolling up their sleeves, as Councilmember Smith mentioned, and getting the work done. And I'm always on the side of how can we make it work, not put something into place that is short-sighted, that hasn't looked at all of the various ripples and unintended consequences, but really looking at it from many points of view. And for that, we need collaboration. It's not something that we need to be doing in a vacuum. I'm looking forward to working with the wonderful directors of our city and watching them do amazing things for our city, working with them to make sure that we do things right.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, you have 1 minute if you'd like to add anything.
Yes, I wanted to say that I would love to, once I'm mayor, I think that we have a position that would be available for Chris and our administration, because she is very admirable in very many of those areas. when we start talking leadership, I think there's a different heart that is available, that is necessary. Now, there are several people that have worked for many years in the city of Lynnwood. That's the ones that have endorsed me, such as Jill O'Kane, who was 23 years as a court administrator. Vicki Heilman, for 32 years, she was our finance director. Linda Alvar, 35 years as a business license and disability board. Allison Hudson for Public Works Administration. Debbie Hodgson, 25 years as a business licenses. Those are just some of the people, the leaders that have worked in the city of Lynnwood and worked with me, and they have endorsed me because they know of my abilities and my leadership.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, if you'd like one more minute, you may respond.
Sure. I would just like to invite people to check out my endorsements. They are on my website. I don't want to, well, maybe I will spend some time to go through them, starting with Mayor Nicholas Smith, and then surrounding mayors, past council members, Chris Boyer, current council member, Shannon Sessions, Ruth Ross, past council member, Sid Roberts, and Lauren Simmons, to name a few. There are people who have seen me work. They've seen the quality and my preparation when I go into meetings. And I truly respect and I'm honored that they have seen that with me and have encouraged me to go down this path. And I've received much wise counsel from each of those individuals. And I look forward to continuing that counseling mentality as I get into the mayor's office.
Thank you. Next question will be to you first, Ms. Frazelle. The city is moving ahead with a $69 million community justice center, expanding the city's police department, jail, and municipal courts. The project has been planned for years, but many who do not follow local news only recently found out about it. How do you plan to inform the community about the project, and what plans do you have for keeping residents apprised of other major decisions that impact the city?
So as you said, this project has been going on for years and years and years. I got intimately involved with it starting in 2018. And I met with Community Health Services Board of Directors. I was invited there by then Chief Davis and now current Chief Nelson. At that time, it was a great idea because we were going to have some medical and mental health issues taking place on the site of the jail facility. And I think that that's what it needs to happen. And I think that when Lauren Davis started showing some support, we moved it to another level. For the dollars, those have been vetted and revetted, gone through many, many times. As far as how do we let our community know about things, you know, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram accounts. We've got newsletters that go out every 3 months. We've got a website. I don't know how else to tell people what's going on. For me, I lived in this city a good long time, and the only resource I had then was the newspaper. And you know what gets to the newspaper, only those things that have gone terribly wrong. I'd love to know how better to reach people. We've done notices in utility bills. I just don't know how much better or a different way that we can communicate with our community. If somebody's got a better way, I'm sure listening. But in the meantime, council meetings, that's where a lot of things happen. And we're not the snazziest thing to listen to for 2 or 3 hours every Monday night. But that is where things happen and where we get news.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, that was a long question. Do you want me to read it again?
No, I think
Okay.
I've got the crux of it anyway. the Facebook and the Twitter accounts and all this other stuff is okay. We kind of have to have it. The website's important, and we need to improve the website, by the way. But what wasn't mentioned and what really is substantially important is to be out in the community. Now, as mayor, I'm going to work well over 40 hours a week, but it's not going to be all in the office. I am already committed to being out in the community, talking to the various citizens out there, talking to the various businesses. I've told some of my friends that own businesses, I won't mention their names, I don't want to get them in trouble on one side or the other, but I've told them that once I'm mayor, I'm going to get a lot of my stuff done in the morning. Then I'm going to come out and we're going to have coffee together at their stores. I'm going to be talking to them about what's going on in Lynnwood and what needs to be done. Another thing that, as you're well aware of, is that I've got an excellent community. I've got an excellent connection with the seniors here in Lynnwood. I do music, what I call my music therapy shows, where I'm out there performing music and talking to people. These seniors eat this up. And that's an excellent idea for communicating to them, letting them know what's necessary, what we need to be doing. We need to be out in the community. So you want to know what else we need to do? It's personal contact. What we need to do is talking to the businesses one-on-one, personally, not having a little time where the people can come in and we'll have a little roundtable. Actually getting out and talking to them privately. That is so much more important, because I've had a lot of people that just say, well, we just don't have this contact. I will be doing that. I've got the leadership ability to do that. I have been doing that all my life, and I'll continue that as mayor of Lynnwood.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, would you like to respond to that?
One thing that I have found that I really love during campaign season is knocking on people's doors and talking to them in their own environment, where they don't have to come to City Hall. They don't have to make an appointment. Some citizens have contacted me and we've made arrangements for longer time periods to sit at their kitchen tables and talk about what's going on in our city. And I find those really refreshing, because it's not the same people every time. It's different people with different concerns, different ideas. If I was in charge of the roads, I would do this different. I would do that different. If I was in charge of our sewage treatment plant, boy, would I have some changes there. We need to hear from people. And whatever that takes is what we need to do. I'm not sure that door to door with individual citizens is really going to work once I'm mayor, though. But I certainly do want input, and we will find ways to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, did you want to add anything?
Oh, absolutely. We need to have this one-on-one contact with people. And as I had mentioned earlier, so this isn't a new subject, as I've mentioned earlier, we need to be having more community engagement. We need to be having more, whether it be festivals or events or whatever the case might be. On days gone by, we used to do that. And we had, as example, we had our Lynnorama, which was a Lynnwood festival. I was chairman for that for 4 years. And this is probably too old for all of you, but I brought Pat Paulson. You probably don't know who Pat Paulson is. He was a national comedian. And then we also brought Sugarloaf to town. I brought Sugarloaf to town during our festivals. We made things happen. We had people together. And that is a perfect opportunity to do what was just said, and that is talk to people one-on-one. And then if we need to talk to them in their homes, we're happy to do that. I've been giving out my personal email, my personal phone number, cell number to people, and I've been getting a lot of calls to talk to them.
Thank you. All right, the next question will go first to you, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The city of Lynnwood was allocated $10.9 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to be paid over 2 years. So far, the city has spent $882,000 to fill some vacant city staff positions, make technology improvements for streaming public meetings online, and purchase police-worn body cameras. In your opinion, how else should the city spend the federal relief funds?
Well, the politically correct response would probably be, oh, we need to give it to the people for their rents and whatever. I see that as being probably a short-term solution that would last for about a month. Candidly, I think we need to be doing more to come up to be discussing this with our community, both of our communities, the people that live here in Lynnwood and those that are stakeholders, the businesses. We are in the process of doing this, and I would love to be continuing to come up with real solutions. I was a little uncomfortable with the $880,000 that has already been spent because I don't think that the total picture was discussed. I don't think that we were able to go out and say, okay, especially when we have a city that supposedly is run by budgeting for outcomes. We didn't say, well, what's the priorities here in Lynnwood? What's the most important thing here in Lynnwood? And what are we be able to do to fix this? Now, I'll get back to another big issue of mine, which is, it is a huge issue of mine, and that is crime in Lynnwood is going up. It's going up, and we need to be doing more. I'd love to spend more money to be able to fight the small crimes. Look at all the graffiti that's going on. Look at all take a look at the shopping carts throughout Lynnwood. Small crimes become bigger crimes, and we need to be working with our police a lot more to be able to, for them to be able to help us, for us to be able to help them. And I think going in that direction is going to help everybody. People that are the most vulnerable need the public safety help more than anything. So I guess the long story short, I would go with more with public safety to help everyone in Lynnwood.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, the city of Lynnwood was allocated $10.9 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to be paid over 2 years. So far, the city has spent $882,000 to fill some vacant city staff positions, make technology improvements for streaming public meetings online, and purchase police-worn body cameras. In your opinion, how else should the city spend the federal relief funds?
I think those were needs that were imminent, that needed to be filled. They were put off because of COVID. They were put off because they didn't fit in our last budget cycle, which was 2021 to 2022. That budget was created during COVID, and we had not a great idea of what our budget was going to look like coming out of COVID. So a number of cuts were made there. So I'm fine with those cuts. But what I want to do with that money is really invest in our community, not maintain. There's other programs out there that people can use for rent payment and for utility assistance. I want to really invest. One concept that I put forward is the idea of paying people to take some classes. A lot of people say, especially our diverse population, they don't know English, they don't know computers, they don't know how to access information. I would love to not only pay for those classes, either at an institute like Letty, which is for our Spanish-speaking people, or Goodwill, or other resources where we pay people to take those classes and then we pay for the class as well. I think that's how we get people to where they can qualify for higher wages, where they can qualify. Maybe they do a budgeting class or a managing your asset class, something so that we are moving our folks forward so that when the next thing hits, they're better prepared for it. COVID has done a great disservice, especially to low-income people, but it's not only low income. We have elderly. Maybe we can find some classes for them so that they can manage the next time.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, do you have anything to add?
Yes. This money that has already been spent, I do believe that, once again, the focus was wrong. The focus was not on the eminent needs of the people of Lynnwood. As example, $150,000 was allocated, was authorized to spend on sound and video for our council meetings. Well, that's not going to really help the people that are in greatest needs. Again, the focus needs to be on the people of Lynnwood. I like the idea that Chris came up with as far as helping people with some of these classes, but I don't like the idea of paying people to take classes. I think we ought to come up with solutions where we have volunteers going out there and helping people with what they're doing. As example, I got quite the background in the mortgage business. I can help people as far as, well, what do you need to do in order to qualify for a major, for a mortgage, et cetera.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, you have 1 minute if you'd like to respond.
Yeah. So we do have a system within Lynnwood that goes back 3 years called Budgeting for Outcomes. And I've taken classes for that specifically. And the idea there is that for every program, every line item that we have an outcome already assigned to it, so that we're not just throwing money at a dartboard, but we're actually expecting something. And when we have clear expectations, I think we can work even harder to meet those expectations. So I've suggested that we come up with a similar rubric as we come up with all of these ideas to spend $10.9 million. It is a long process because we are waiting to hear from people. All of our boards and commissions are coming up with ideas. I don't want to make this in a vacuum. I don't want council to just be the 7 people that get to decide where this money goes. So whoever's listening to this, give us your ideas.
Thank you. And excuse me, the next question will go first to you, Ms. Frazelle. As mayor, how will you ensure the critical needs of those who are homeless in Lynnwood? Let's try that again. As mayor, how will you ensure the critical needs of those who are homeless in Lynnwood be met without enabling Seattle-style issues such as public camping, trash along streets, and related public safety concerns?
So a few years ago, the police department hired a social worker and formed a division called Community Health and Safety Services. I had the opportunity to do a ride along with them. And it was a group within the city that would reach out to homeless folks in various areas. We were behind buildings, we were in wooded areas, and we were really reaching out to see what the needs are. Not every person, I don't know what the percentage is, but they're not all alcoholics. They're not all drug-riddled people. There are people that have made some poor decisions with their life after poor decision after poor decisions, and we need to help them rebuild. One of the nonprofit organizations I'm involved with is the Jean Kim Foundation. We run the Lynnwood Hygiene Center, and with that, people come there to get a shower, to get a bite to eat, to get services, and to build rapport and to build respect with one another. And we've been able to help people get housed, help people get jobs, help people get off of the streets. And we need to continue that. And it's going to be a long, long process. We also are partnering with the LEAD program in Snohomish County, which is law enforcement assisted diversion. And that's been a great resource because it opens up more financial resources to us. There's money that's been allocated to the county, i.e., let's collaborate, let's help our people make a difference in their lives with the dollars that we have at our fingertips. And we need to be helping people, not enabling their behavior, but moving them along. Although I will admit, it's a very slow process.
Thank you. And Mr. Smith, and do let me know if you'd like me to reread the question.
Oh, let's just do it for tradition. Go ahead.
Okay. As mayor, how will you ensure the critical needs of those who are homeless in Lynnwood be met without, I struggle with this sentence. As mayor, how will you ensure the critical needs of those who are homeless in Lynnwood be met without enabling Seattle-style issues such as public camping, trash along streets, and related public safety concerns?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. We have currently, we do have a lot of problems that we don't have the personnel that are there to give the tough love that we need to be doing. We have, as example, we have Gold Park has now been got more and more camping going on there, and I'll get that in a minute. They did a going through there one day recently, and there's all kinds of needles. How can your children be safe in these parks if we allow people to be camping at night and having needles? I will disagree with. No, I won't disagree. What I'll say is that my experience and the experience that I have of experts is that most of these people that are camping out, 95 to 98% of them are drug and or alcoholics or drug. They're on drugs. We can't be allowing them to be doing this for their sake. We need to have tough love. I've been working with Bud Kopp, who was a former president of the Chamber, former president of Rotary, many other businesses. We're coming up with solutions to be able to get that. If we get tough on these people, we have a place for them to go, where there'd be no alcohol, no drugs allowed, but they'd have some place to live, some place to sleep. And those are the type of things that we need to be doing to get going further and further. Once again, if we just give them or turn a blind eye to this, it's going to hurt people of Lynnwood, and it's going to hurt those people. We can't allow them. I think that there's a lot of better ways that we can help them without just saying, well, it's okay, we understand. We have to be the parents at this point and help them help themselves. And I've got the heart to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Since 1995, I've worked with low income and homeless people. And as I mentioned in my intro, I've been to jails and talked to women. And during a point of crisis, quite often, that's when people are ready to make a change. But 2 days, 2 weeks later, it comes back. And just like, I don't know about you guys, but I like to go on a diet every once in a while. And it lasts about 2 days. Sometimes I get 2 weeks out of it. But the deal is, I'm not ready to make that change. People have to be ready and willing to make the change. We can't just put them in a facility and think that we're done. We need a little hand-holding, a little accountability, a little responsibility. I've learned a lot from the 5 years I've been on the Gene Kim Foundation. As we've given people a roof over their head, we know that there is much more that needs to take place to help them.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, absolutely. Because once again, we can't just be waiting for them to make that decision. That will seldom come. We need to be helping them. We need to be pushing them in a loving way, but we need to be firm. We need to be pushing them help themselves. Once again, Gold Park is become much worse. And I have a little bit of a problem with the hygiene station, is that it's a nice little idea, but the Verdant has given somewhere around $250,000 so far for that. There's no rental involved. The trailer that houses the help there, something. So maybe that $250,000 or so, whatever it is, could have been used and have a little bit more tough love to get these people off the street, and just don't say, well, we understand. You can't do that. And one of my lines that I use is, I agree with you. We don't need the Seattle type of stuff coming up here, but we're seeing that happen. So our campaign theme, one of them includes, don't Seattle our Lynnwood.
Thank you. This next question will go first to you, Mr. Smith. Describe your experience working collaboratively with other jurisdictions to address regional issues, and name one regional project you would like to see the city of Lynnwood develop with other jurisdictions.
Well, as far as the past is concerned, we used to have in Lynnwood, and I'd like to see it again. We used to have more collaboration with our local city councils. We had yearly, we would get together with Mount Lake Terrace, with Edmonds, with Mill Creek, with Mukilteo. We'd get together and we'd just sit down, have dinner or whatever the case might be, and talk about issues that we have in common. It seems like now that we have so many more regional issues, we have less communication between these cities. And it comes from an administration that, our administration, when I'm mayor, we're going to be taking a positive effort forward in doing that. I've already started that. I've been attending some of the meetings down in Edmonds. They have a community organization down there. I don't know why in the world they have breakfast at 7:30 in the morning. That's way too early. But I've been collaborating with them and saying we need to be getting our contact back between Lynnwood and Edmonds. We need to do the same thing with Mount Lake Terrace. We need to, I've talked quite a bit with Joe Marine up in Mukilteo, John Kartak in Snohomish. We are talking now about what we can do to be getting together in better communication. And the better communication just can't be the mayors getting together for coffee once a month or breakfast once a month. It has to be the collaboration of the mayors, the city managers, and the council members. I am going to be the catalyst. I will make this happen, but it's not going to happen unless we take action. It has not been happening, but I am determined that we will collaborate more and get some of these problems, these problems that are being thrown on top of us, we'll be getting those corrected.
Thank you. And Ms. Frazelle, describe your experience working collaboratively with other jurisdictions to address regional issues, and name one regional project you would like to see the city of Lynnwood develop with other jurisdictions.
The biggest project that I worked on for a couple of years was getting a mandate from the county council for no more fireworks in Lynnwood. For years, we've dealt with fireworks. When I was young, my parents had a fireworks stand. Back then, they were a little saner than they are now. They were a lot safer than they are now. In the last probably 2 decades, we've heard from veterans and pet owners of how fireworks very much distress their family members. And can we please do something? Fireworks have not been contained to one day or 1 week out of the year. So I spoke before the Snohomish County Council on 3 occasions and urged them to please move forward and make South Snohomish County fireworks free. Of course, it's not, but it's a lot better than it was. And there's still a situation of enforcing the mandate. Something that I would like to see for South Snohomish County, I think we're on the track for that, but it's mental health awareness, helping people first, accept that there's an issue out there. And second, spend some dollars, spend some capital to address it. A lot of our homeless people have mental illnesses. A lot of people in our homes have mental illness. A lot of people in our schools have mental illnesses. And we need to have those tough conversations and work together as a group of people, as a community that extends beyond our borders, and help one another, be good neighbors to those people in other cities, and they will work with us, as we have found out with Lauren Davis.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would. And it's a little bit more difficult for me to talk about this, but those with disabilities have been, we have not been taking care of them as much as we should be. My father was disabled. He had diabetes, and he lost his legs and his organs and passed away from the complications of diabetes. My little brother just died a little over 24 hours ago from the complications of diabetes. And I think we have way too many people that are lonely that have the various disabilities. We need to be helping them more. And it's not just people that have lost both legs and have mobility problems. Even, I've shared with many, I'm slightly disabled. I've only got one eye. And we need to have it where people are more sensitive to that. Not me, I can overcome all this stuff. We have a lot of people that do have the disabilities that we have not really addressed as much as we should.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, COVID, as I've mentioned, has been just a horrific thing in our community, not just the disease, but the ripples of causing us to stay within our homes, causing us to wear masks, not be able to recognize our neighbors, our friends, sometimes our family members if we haven't seen them for a while. And wouldn't that be great if we could come together as a South County environment, honor those people who have passed away due to COVID, and then start some type of connectivity, especially for seniors, so that they feel comfortable moving out of not moving out, but going out of their doors and connecting with people. For a while, I'm not sure if our senior center is still doing it, but for a while they would make phone calls to individual seniors and just check up on them and let them know that somebody cared.
Thank you very much. Ms. Frazelle, this next question goes to you first. What role should the mayor play in supporting BIPOC residents and ensuring that Lynnwood is a welcoming city to its increasingly diverse population?
When I went to high school at Meadowdale High School, we had exactly one non-white student there. And I remember her well. Her name was Iris, which is a pretty cool name. But when my kids went to Meadowdale High School, there was only about 50% people that were white. And there were people of many, many ethnic backgrounds and cultures. And what a rich environment that had become, that we weren't just looking at it from our own European ancestry, but we started to look at life differently. And I think that's what we need to continue to do, is to make space. One of the ideas I would like to do is find a space where we could have food trucks of one specific culture, one specific palate, and we create a community event around that, and we bring in music from that same culture. And a lot of times we're afraid of what's different, but this way we get the bonus of wonderful local food, food that is near and dear to their heart. And we hear music that is near and dear. and we start to build community. We become less afraid of people that we actually sit across a table from. We become more inviting and inclusive of people that we share likes with. And this is a small thing, but I think it would do a world of good to our city and our BIPOC community to start to let down those boundaries.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what role should the mayor play in supporting BIPOC residents and ensuring that Lynnwood is a welcoming city to its increasingly diverse population?
Well, being involved in understanding is two very important parts. Although I was born in Seattle, I spent most of my childhood until the end of high school in the Pacific and Asian countries. We lived in Hawaii, the Philippines, and Japan. And then I finished my senior year. I begged my parents to come back here early so I could start and finish my senior year in one school. And that's why I was a Edmonds High School graduate. But talk is cheap about all these things that we need to do. But I have actually been doing outreach. I've been involved with some of these communities. We have the Gambian community, which is part of West Africa. They have invited council members and everybody else to come out to some of their events. I've been doing that, and I've had a heck of a good time with these people. We had the Ethiopian church here in Lynnwood invited us to come out, and it was just me and George Hurst that came out there. I've been to the mosque. I've got the Korean community. I've got 20 Korean businesses, many of them food businesses, by the way, have endorsed me. The Latino community has, we got a lot of support there. We are the only campaign, from my knowledge in Lynnwood's history, that we've got outreach directors for the outreach director for the Latino community, and we have an outreach director for the Korean community. Corey and Karina have been doing excellent jobs. We've got telephone numbers that if someone wants to talk to somebody in those languages, they can call. They can make a difference. And one last plug, I gotta say, because it was so exciting. My wife and I went down to the Xin Yun Chinese dance thing last week, and it was absolutely incredible. And the information from that about China was, over the top. It was incredible. I recommend it.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Mr.
Smith, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would. And that is, so many people think that that are a lot of people that are part of our community, that they're isolated. And I think that we need to be doing more to not isolate them by just making contact with them. We've been doing that. We've been, not just my campaign, but I've been doing that for many, many years. And whether it be with some of the Latino community organizations or whatever, we've actually done what we talk about. We put our money where our mouth is. We make it happen. And I'm going to continue to do that. I love doing that. And I meet so many people. I volunteer every week at the food bank. And we have me and Mike Miller have a wonderful time talking to all these people. So I don't know, we must have 35 different countries of people that are visiting it. And we talk to them, have a great time. I also helped one kid, one family learn to count to 5 in Japanese, the little kids. It was great.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, next question will go to you first.
Yes.
As more development occurs in Lynnwood, it also means the removal of trees from our city. Do you have ideas for protecting the city's tree canopy?
Well, it's something that is near and dear to my heart, but I can't really say that I've got a plan for it. This is the first time I've been asked this question. I am not a tree hugger, but I absolutely love trees. I probably own more trees than the rest of the council members put together, or at least pretty close. I think that with the trees, so often we have people that are not allowed to really to cut down their trees when they need to. We're not supporting some of the people that are having dead trees. And I'd like to see a program that we've had in the past be reenacted and redoubled. And that is, we gave out trees. We would grow them at the Public Works facility. I'm not sorry, not Public Works, or the Parks facility. We grow these little trees and then give them to people to plant on their own. After 5-10 years, trees were everywhere in Lynnwood, and I like to see us doing more of that. We can help support people helping themselves with the trees. I think that we can do a lot more as far as protecting the trees that we have in our parks, and with that, I think that our canopy can be saved a lot more.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, as more development occurs in Lynnwood, it also means the removal of trees from our city. Do you have ideas for protecting the city's tree canopy?
I do. Right now, with Sound Transit, they are replanting, I believe, 4 trees for every one that they cut down for light rail. And with each of those comes more than a 10-year guarantee that those trees will survive. When developers come in and happen to find some space in Lynnwood that has trees on it and they want to develop it, they are required to make a payment to our tree fund. We actually have a less known fund. A lot of people that I tell about it aren't aware of it. But if you would like to put a tree on your own property, you merely have to fill out an application, and it can be done online. And then you are given a voucher. And then you can go and pick out your own full-grown tree from a nursery. And I will tell you that a few years ago, I took advantage of that. I now have 4 wonderful fruit trees that are in my yard and just starting to bear fruit. I want to recontribute to things in a green way. Trees provide more than just food and shade for us. They provide part of our ecosystem. They provide cleaning of our air, and we must protect them. And part of the plan is to have an awareness of what trees are indigenous here, what trees benefit us in various ways. I love to walk through Lyndale Park. There's such a variety of trees, and I think it was a Boy Scout project, or maybe a Girl Scout project, that has identified some of those trees. We need to protect the trees that we have, no matter if they're in parks or in our backyard.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, again, with the trees, I'm an absolute tree lover. And one thing, in addition to Sound Transit that takes out trees throughout between Seattle and wherever it gets to, a lot of this development that we do have coming in, when we have so many apartments coming in right now, there is a harmful side of that. And just because they will pay into a fund, we need to be doing more as far as insisting on these protecting trees or developing areas in their own property. I've seen some of these buildings that are right up against the road. That's very disheartening. Because it was a time, if you look at the convention center, we wanted to have plazas next to businesses, next to buildings. And so we need to do more to insist that you not just put money into a tree fund. We need more trees. We need more local parks on these local developments.
Thank you. And this is the final question. It will go first to you, Ms. Frazelle. Tell voters why you would be the best choice for mayor.
I grew up in Lynnwood. I've seen it grow. I've seen it change. And I want to continue to be part of that process. It's been an important part of my growing up. My first job was at Lynnwood Library. I helped install trees. Speaking of trees, at the mall, my uncle was a landscaper. I helped put in the first South Lynnwood neighborhood park. My roots are here. And I'm not a lifetime politician, but I am someone who's volunteered in many ways in our community. I've helped clean up the Masika Trail behind City Hall. I've been a volunteer at the fire department. When I see a need, I take the steps to fill it. And that's how I became a council member. I see a need as our current mayor, Nicholas Smith, is retiring after 8 years in public office. And we need a fresh face there. We need fresh ideas. We need to look at things through a different lens. The way that we did things 20 years ago or longer, there's new ways now. And a lot has changed in our society. And collaboration, I think I've said that 22 times if I was keeping track here today. Collaboration is key. We don't work in a vacuum anymore. We don't work within boundaries of our city. And we need someone that knows the finances, because that's the most precious resource that our community members give us. Let's make finances work for all of us. Let's make safety an even bigger part of our community. People need to feel safe here. And I want to work with our police department, with our community members. I've been to almost every cops and clergy meeting that we've had. There are people that have those same values that want to be reaching out to our community. And it's my job as mayor to collaborate with everybody that is available to make Lynnwood better.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, tell voters why you would be the best choice for mayor.
When we start talking about we need a new direction, we need a new face in our leadership, I'm the one that would be doing that. We need someone that's going to be concerned about the people of Lynnwood. We need somebody that's going to be concerned about the taxes that are being paid. We need to be concerned with the public safety that is involved with all this. And I'll just be blunt about this. I had last year, when we're in the middle of this pandemic, I proposed for us to eliminate just one tiny little tax on the utilities. Years ago, we had 0 taxes on utilities. And now that it came back on the council, I found that we have had all 11 of the utilities now have a maxed out 6% tax on all of this. So last year, I made a motion for us, brought it to the council, we discussed it, I made a motion for us to eliminate that one tax that would just help the smallest of people, the smallest of, or the people that are the most needy here in Lynnwood. We passed that 4-3. My opponent voted against that. I thought, no big deal. And then the mayor ended up vetoing this little tiny tax relief to the people of Lynnwood. And I couldn't convince Chris to change her vote to override that. We talk about the police. In our last budget, we came up with the mayor wanted to cut a whole bunch of positions off the police department. There was 3 that were very important. 2 of them in the drug task force, for heaven's sakes, and 1 is a detective. And George and I collaborated together, and we were able to fund what his project was with the parks and mine was with the police officers. We were able to get funding. We were able to move to get funding for those police departments. Chris voted against that. We need to be having focus on our public safety, on our taxes, and I will be doing that as a mayor. That's the difference.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, there is. So the wonderful thing about having accounting experience is that the debits have to equal the credits. If all we do is cut income, we have to have a cut in expenses. And the time to do that is not in the middle of a budget cycle where decisions and priorities have already been laid out. And the idea to come and cut people's taxes by $6 a month, while that seems like just a small amount, we need to look at it in the big picture. And if we're going to cut income by $6 a month, what expenses are we going to cut by an equal amount? And that's what concerns me when we come up with one idea of, whether it's cutting an expense or creating more expenses, as with the police department, we need to look at it in a holistic view, not just a small vacuum. And when we can do that, I am on board for cutting taxes, but that needs to happen during budget times, not in the middle of a budget cycle.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one thing is to be in the middle of a budget cycle, which we can change whenever we want to. But this other thing to be in the middle of a pandemic cycle. People were hurting, and those that where the $6 made a big difference, they are hurting, and they would love to anything for the last 18 months to have any type of relief as possible. There was no reason to not allow that to happen. And yes, if you end up with a budget cut of this little bit amount of $6 a month for these people, there's a lot of things that we could do to be able to cut back on the expenses. Excuse me. The city of Lynnwood has overspent on so many things, such as they moved one of the departments off the city into Class A business park, and they're spending $25,000 a month on that. That's just one example of where we could be cutting back. Move them back to City Hall, which has been recommended by a study we did. Move them back to City Hall, and we could sublet that property out and save $25,000 a month. That is just one example of the many things we could do to make this happen. But we have to start with cutting making tax relief for people.
Thank you. We will now move to closing statements, and you each have 1 minute. You will receive timekeeper warnings for 30 seconds and stop. Since Ms. Frazelle started first with her opening statement, Mr. Smith, you may go first with your closing statement. Ms. Frazelle, your closing statement?
I'm sorry, I thought you said Mr. Smith would be first.
Yeah, I thought you said me.
Okay, I did.
I gave an opening
and I
statement.
appreciate the clarification. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, would you like to present your closing statement?
I'd be happy to go first on this. I bring experience, vision, and leadership and dedication to our community. I brought forth the first tax reduction I just mentioned in recent Lynnwood history. It passed 4-3 by the council, but then it was destroyed by a veto. And we couldn't get the votes to overrule the veto that would help people. There's a difference. I have consistently supported the safety of all our Lynnwood residents. We need to put forth focus on our Lynnwood families. I've been closely tied to our seniors, people with disabilities, and our young families. My involvement with our first responders, fire, and police goes back many, many years. I'm not a newcomer to this important part of our city. In our decades of living here in Lynnwood, my wife and I built careers, made lifelong friends, and raised our children. By the way, my girls all went to Meadowdale High School. We love this city for its heart, diversity in many areas, and potential to once again be the gemstone of South Snohomish County. As mayor, I'll work hard to protect your family's safety, guard our natural spaces, and preserve the unique character of Lynnwood.
Thank you. Ms. Frazelle, your closing statement?
First, thank you, Linda, and the Chamber of Commerce and Teresa Whipple for the opportunity to talk about the important issues in our city. I've talked about some of these issues as I've walked door to door. And as I mentioned before, I'm not a lifetime politician, but I have a passion for our city. I want to continue to work hard to be prepared every day to do what is best for the people who live here and who work here. I've been endorsed by our current Mayor Smith. She's retiring from public office after 8 years. I'm not about term limits, but I do question people who make it part of their lives for a long period of time. There's other people that would love to be on council. You can read her endorsement of me along with other people who are in our city and state government and leaders in our community. I want to work together with the people of Lynnwood to make Lynnwood a great place to live, work, and play. So as you receive your ballots this week, I ask that you vote Frazelle for mayor by November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to again thank our participants in this virtual debate for Lynnwood Mayor, presented by the Lynnwood Chamber of Commerce and Lynnwood Today. And much appreciation to our sponsors, Edmonds College, James Russell PLLC Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, and Office Tech. A reminder that the ballots for the November 2nd general election are scheduled to be mailed on October 14th, so be sure to vote.